Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
Who is a person you used to admire a lot but have completely lost respect for, and why? Oprah. Oh my god, don't get me started. She was the main reason my mother distrusted everything I did or said as a teenager. She had her convinced I was doing hardcore drugs and going to alcohol-fueled sex parties, ignoring the fact that I had never even been invited to a party to begin with. The minute my mom stopped watching Oprah, I was treated like a person. It has never been more clear to me that Oprah hates children. Not doesn't want them, hates them. I've had horrid sinuses my entire life. Just a constant runny nose. My mom was searching my bag from school at 14 to 15 and knew for sure I was addicted to cocaine. I was fat, didn't have a job, and kept explaining that if I did coke, my sinuses would be dry. How do you know that, cokehead? That's why she's in the Epstein files. Not as widely known, but when the Oprah Winfrey Network launched, it produced non-union shows despite her being a member of SAG-AFTRA. Aside from that, the network talent consisted mainly of people of color. However, the non-union wages they were paid were dismal and didn't elevate the community at all. The network was wildly successful at the time and could have done better but didn't care to whatsoever. Just like Tyra Banks. There was a hoop dancer, gymnast that was asked to dye her live show, but she would only be paid in exposure. She asked, if Oprah is already asking for me, I don't think exposure helps me. Bill Cosby was once a very wholesome character, until the truth came out. Bill Cosby is a stunning level of hypocrite. He was always lecturing others on how to live their lives more morally. You ever heard how he scolded Eddie Murphy for using explicit language? The man had the audacity to act like he had the moral high ground. Neil Gaiman. I enjoyed his work, but he is dead to me now. It was the way he spoke about the allegations of sexual violence that turned my stomach. This one's mine. This one really broke me. I'm not exaggerating when I say Sandman meaningfully changed the course of my life. I met him once in my early 20s, got a very long hug from the guy, floated on air for years about it. Reading about what he's done turned that memory, which was once something very bracing, into something pretty unsettling. Sandman, Transmetropolitan and Runaways were three comics that I genuinely believe saved me at lowest point of my life. Then truth about Warren Ellis and Neil Gaiman came out. I dread one day I'll find out BKV did something too. And Amanda Palmer for enabling him. Amanda Palmer is effectively a human trafficker. Fuck her. She always gave me the ick. And apparently it was an open secret in her local circles how much of a POS she was. Back in high school, I loved my French teacher. She was so kind to me and encouraged me at every opportunity, and I always did my very best in her class. She was part of the reason I wanted to become a French teacher. Cut to when I was in college and working part-time at McDonald's. One night this lady pulled up to the drive-through speaker and was crazy rude. Just unnecessarily nasty. She pulled around and it was my French teacher from high school. Lost all respect for her at that moment and gave up on my French teacher aspirations, not totally because of her. If it makes you feel better, I found out that my French teacher, who I loved, was a pedophile years later. He had been a priest who molested little boys, so the Catholic Church naturally sent him to my all-girls school. Face with rolling eyes. This was in 2009, mind you. She was just method acting a French person. Ellen DeGeneres. The whole "be kind" persona while allegedly treating her staff like garbage behind the scenes, that hypocrisy just killed it for me. She treated celebrities like garbage on camera too. Nasty bitch all round. My mum would watch her every day. I wasn't a fan of hers. That Justin Bieber interview when he kept saying, "You're making me uncomfortable," and she kept going sexualizing him. He was like 17 at the time too. Also she was big buddies with Puff Diddy. If you grew up listening to Eminem and 50, you knew what he was about before the evidence finally leaked. It's my comfort show, so it's sad to say, but most of the main cast from that 70s show. Topher was painted as an arrogant douche. Turns out he's the least problematic one. Probably also the most skilled one, too. He was making studio-level fan edits, all as a hobby, like the Star Wars prequels and the Hobbit movies. I wasn't aware how Topher Grace would get crap about not hanging out with them afterwards until all of the allegations came out, but I totally see why. I was in late middle school, early high school when that 70s show was released and its first peak seasons. There was definitely that hearsay that Topher Grace thought he was better than his co-stars, or was overall stuck up because he wasn't hanging out with the rest of the younger cast. Seeing pictures of the rest of them doing stuff at Scientology church, multiple events, he was right to nope out of all that crap. The way they smeared Topher Grace makes me mad. I'll even go so far as to say Hyde and Jackie were my favorite couple on the show. It's a hard watch now. Hyde was hands down my favorite character, and I had a huge crush on Danny Masterson as a teen. Absolutely horrifying to think about now. The fact she and Kelso have that Project Thorn or whatever it is called to bust kiddie fuckers, but supported Hyde. Jack Horner, the paleontologist. He uncovered some stellar finds in the 70s, wrote some important papers on dinosaur behavior and life cycles, and was one of the scientific consultants for the Jurassic Park series. A massive star for any paleontology kid of the 90s. But he had some whack-ass ideas ranging from Triceratops not being a valid genus to T-Rex being an obligate scavenger to pushing his Build a Dinosaur project, which had the intended goal of making Jurassic Park real with genetically defective chickens. And he'd push these ideas to the public directly rather than submit actual papers for peer review, which is just plain academic dishonesty. And his image has completely crumbled over the past few years as it came out what a terrible human being he is. Apparently his groundbreaking research on Maiasaura involved him borrowing other people's finds and then not giving them back. In 2012 he married one of the students at the college he worked at while she was 19 and he was 65. They divorced a few years after, and he was recently listed in the Epstein files where he sent a personal email to Epstein thanking him for a lovely weekend with the girls. He apparently had a lot of friends in high places making generous donations for the colleges he worked at, which is a can of worms in itself. But yeah, awful scientist, awful human, and a massive stain in the history of the community. I went to Montana State during the time he married that student. The student he married wasn't the only student he was involved with. We all knew he was a piece of shit professionally and personally. A lot of us were extremely unhappy he was still employed by the university. Pretty sure that was during the time he had obtained a grant to find another full T-Rex, and was still looking. I honestly don't think he ever even ended up finding another one. It was a big thing around here, considering the financials and whatnot. Hello fellow MSU attendee. I left in 2011 right before he married the student and also worked over in the museum as well alongside my then wife. It was definitely whack and I wasn't surprised when everything fell through. Dude was something to meet in person, not good something, but definitely something. Did not expect to come here and witness some major paleontology drama. No one's got more bones to pick than a paleontologist. Dr. Oz, he was my MIL's cardiac surgeon at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in the mid-1980s when that's all he did. He seemed to be genuine, empathetic and skilled heart surgeon at the time. What you see him promulgating and endorsing now is a far cry from the man I met years ago. I am very disappointed. The podcast, Behind the Bastards, did an excellent series on him and that tracks with their story. By all accounts, he was a great surgeon but changed after being on television. I recall Robert saying something like it was ironic because Oz could have saved potentially hundreds if not thousands more over his lifetime had he stayed just a cardiac surgeon. He was by all accounts very skilled. Instead he harmed millions by peddling snake oil. Thanks for sharing this. It's always useful to read stories from people who have personal experience to share. It's deeply sucks. He really had hands, just a massive amount of pure talent and gift. He could have been an all-timer, up there with Dr. Michael DeBakey or Drive. Christiane Barnard, and would be talked about alongside Cooley and Nelson today. But no, he chose grift and evil. A huge waste. Reminds me of Ben Carson, genuinely groundbreaking neurosurgeon who also smashed barriers for black physicians, deserved to be played by Cuba Gooding Jr. in the biopic. Flushed it all for a failed Republican run for president. Will Smith comes to mind. Used to love his movies and of course, Fresh Prince. But now I just see him as a broken, sad human being. He comes off very desperate too. A very bad aging timeline for him sadly. I adored him for so long too. That midlife crisis, especially when you're obscenely rich. Posting AI images of crying fans worshipping him during his last tour was just embarrassing. Dude tried opening a Scientologist school and lied about it. I'd been done with him for years. Tiger Woods. Sad state for a gazillionaire. Agree, and I would have agreed right after Ellen pounded him with a golf club and the scandal became public. God, I remember that time so well. When it was trickling out I said to my buddies how funny would it be if she went after him cause he's banging a whole bunch of hookers or something, and then. He is obvious an alcoholic and pill popper. He is truly lucky he has not killed anyone. I'm gonna date myself for saying this, but Steve Jobs. I was an absolute Apple fanboy growing up in the 90s. I even asked my dad to gift me shares in Apple as birthday presents, back when they were a much more reasonable $20-ish a share. I thought he was the tech equivalent of the second coming of Christ for how he returned to Apple to bring it back from the brink of extinction to the world's most valuable company. Only near the time of his death in the late 2000s did I find out about his bad side. Things like how he decided to forsake his own daughter, how he used to park in the handicapped spaces at Apple buildings, plus how he always bought a new car every 6 months so that he could take advantage of a legal loophole where he didn't have to put license plates on his car, and how he went around espousing lies that eating lots of nuts and doing cleanses could cure people of cancer. That latter one eventually did him in. I know that visionaries are complicated people like the rest of us, but boy was he a special kind of asshole. I was dumbfounded that he abandoned his daughter and then named the computer after her, the Lisa. Oh come on, everybody knows it's just a coincidence that Lisa also happens to be an acronym for Local Integrated Software Architecture. And because so many people are high off their iPhones, and because he died not long after this stuff started to become known, he still seems to get a pass on a lot of this. I have to wonder what the public perception of him, and Apple, would be if he had lived. Would it be vaguely similar to how Musk is now viewed? This is probably a hot take, but I just switched to iPhone after having Android for like 8 to 9 years, and I'm genuinely thinking either iPhone used to be a lot better, or Android used to be a lot worse. There are so many things on Android that were intuitive, and made logical sense that are just the opposite on iPhone. Only had it for maybe 2 months and I'm already planning on trading it in for another Android because it's so awful. It was what he did to the Woz that really did it for me. Oh, and he stank. Like didn't bathe stank. Woz is the best. Guy has access, wealth, and powerful connections in the most influential industry of the past 100 years, and the worst thing I can think to say about him is he can be a little extra with his sheets of currency shtick. That and being a ball hog with the Tetris high scores back in the day. I got worse things to say about myself than those complaints, haha.